Welcome everybody to the AdNews Power Breakfast. Just to kick off, data, it's a real watchword at the moment. Everybody's talking about it. Exactly what do we mean by data? And I'll put that question to you, Ian. I know you're right across it. What's your take?
Clearly, people talk about two types. There's qualitative data and quantitative data. But anything that informs you about either your customer or your consumer, I'll use the word customer to refer to Woolworths and Coles. Our consumer is a different person. But by and large, we deal with the consumer. So anything and everything that concerns those people.
I think the data I'm most interested in now, and I'm excited with, is just the shopper data. I think in shopper data you really can track quite well the shopping behavior again, to understand what kind of shopper baskets are composed, and you see repeat coming through quite quickly. I find that a very interesting area where I have to learn a lot, and with me I think my team, my media partners, etc., to really leverage that well.
When it comes to dashboards, they're really just a repository for that information. So dashboards are a buzzword. I'm sure you've all heard of it. Some of you are probably playing with the dashboards. Unfortunately, they don't look like a Star Trek Enterprise as much as I wish they did. But really, they're just a visualization of that data stream, and it gives us a chance to disseminate that information much more quickly.
We carry all of ours, and we set out 10 years ago to build a centralised database where we collected it in one place and to make it accessible to all of our divisions. We set out to get 10% of Australian households initially. That was 10 years ago, on the basis that one-to-one was inevitable. Frankly, I didn't know that it would become as important as it has. I mean, I'd be absolutely bullshitting you if I said that. So we converted that progressively over the last 3 years to about 1.5 million records, of which we have about 800, a bit over 800,000. Nearly 900,000 phone numbers, and that's available centrally to all of our marketers, and they slice and dice it whichever way they want. We've put infrastructure inside the company to assist them to do that. Not everybody comes with data dissection skills, and at the same time we're now going through a process, as more and more of it goes online, to re-educate our marketers. We have a whole training session for all of our marketers, 5 one-day sessions, to move them all into that world.
There's always going to be the thing where you need to ask the questions of the data, and that's something we're trying to work really closely with our guys, is it's actually asking the right questions. So what story are you trying to tease out of the data? That's the starting point, not staring at reams of data going, find me the answer. It's actually, you've got to have a point of view going in. The data either disproves that point of view or helps cement it, and then you can start to have fun. As we say internally, we're having a lot more fun with words, pictures and numbers than ever before now. But again, it is still going to be the fact that strategically you have to have the freedom to take a chance, and you'll be able to find the data to prove it, I'm sure.
I think the biggest challenge for us as a company is just to get the capabilities, to get the skills in our teams to really work on the data. So yes, there's new data coming in. Yes, it helps us to target more than in the past. But I think it's basically my biggest challenge is just to get the capability. That's also why I'm very happy that Katie joined our team, just to really reinforce that thinking.
I think it's really interesting to map the data to the consumer journey. So in the category of electronics, as you would all kind of guess, the fact is people are doing so much more research online before they go in store. So suddenly the impact of the floor store manager changes, the impact of the fact that they're going in knowing pretty much everything there is to know about the category they're buying in. They're actually searching in store as well. So we've seen Google have done some great studies recently about the number of people that search in store, obviously even in supermarket, which I was quite fascinated with how many mums are searching on their phones in the middle of a shopping centre. We're at the sort of start of this, so I think there's real intent and spirit from everyone involved to understand the data more. We're not quite there yet. We need to make some more linkages between what people are doing offline, online, etc. So I think that the retailers, they know that they need to. The bottom line is the consumer confidence is down, people are spending online overseas, etc. So they know they need to figure that, but it's just understanding that journey a little bit more until they can kind of solve it.
I still believe I need TV, I still need the reach, particularly to build up the frequency of the message. I only think that for the disruption, to really stop a consumer and to really let that consumer rethink of what they are doing today, and to seduce them into a new kind of shopping behavior, new kind of buying behavior, I need targeted media because I can't stop a whole country at once. Just putting my ads on air, which is a model we successfully deploy in a lot of countries around the world, is not driving my baseline. So we have to do more to really get a disruption, to really change that consumer behavior out here. And I think that's where particularly I go as narrow as possible, and really try to talk with an as narrow defined group as possible to stop them and make them the kind of mobilizers of the discussion and of hopefully a new kind of behavior that benefits my business.
Often the direct marketing channels are pulled off the plan quite quickly, so we've got to keep the TV or we've got to keep the magazines, and now with the amount of data that we have access to, we can start to build more holistic consumer journeys and put KPIs in place that allow us to measure at the end, well, that social campaign or that direct mail campaign was only meant to reach 500 people or 5,000 people, and it actually succeeded in what it was meant to do within your overall consumer response journey, rather than just saying, look, it only reached 5,000 people, it clearly didn't do well. So I think that's the most exciting thing now, is the ability to interrogate the entire consumer journey and really set some hard measures up front.
I think, like Peter, we're finding that maybe there needs to be a different behaviour, different mechanism in order to change behaviour than that traditional model, and the new media certainly presents opportunities to do that. The way in which we will do that and to cement people to our brands more so than price activity or whatever else will be the way in which we engage with them and then help them to understand who we are and help them to do things through our brands, through our products, and particularly through our brands if you want to get to a branded level. So we have to find more effective and more efficient ways to stitch the consumer to ourselves than perhaps the advertising model of the past will deliver in the current context. And the mechanisms are there to do it, provided you know who you're talking to. Whether it's talking to the shopper, to Peter's point, to the consumer, and increasingly potentially by collaboration with our customers, the retailers. There's all sorts of mechanisms to do all that sort of stuff. But it is a zero-sum game, so we're just going to have to do it better and more effectively.
I strongly believe that creating waves is very expensive. It's very difficult to create a wave in a country, but to ride it and to serve it, it's much easier and doesn't cost a lot of energy. I was intrigued by a conversation I had with the editor of Marie Claire. She knows exactly the kind of messages she wants to land in each month. She knows what needs to be set in January, February, March. But at the same moment, she needs to be flexible for discussions out there in her target group. And I think that kind of flexibility, we as marketeers need to start to create in our teams so that we know what the discussion is out there. Yes, we have our kind of innovation messages which are just lined up for the next 3 years, but there are maybe these things which are relevant for the brand that are out there, discussions which are out there where we need to find, together with our agencies, the capability to jump on it.
We are going to have to put faith and trust in people to engage in the online space. We too have consumer services people. We have Radian 6 as our listening tool. We're listening to what's going on and how we engage, and we do want to engage. But in the end, we have to be careful about our own destiny. We spent a lot of money building or changing the perception of the Nestle brand and rebuilding it over the last 15 years or so. That can be undone immensely quickly. And it gets undone not just here, but at a global level, because this stuff, it's gone global straight away. So just the wrong engagement conversation can escalate things. And believe me, when it does, we hear from Switzerland, by the next morning, the phone is ringing, what the hell is going on? Because someone's engaged in an inappropriate way in a conversation. And agencies can't know enough. Don't know enough about a certain area, but they need to know where they need to pull back and leave it alone and escalate it to the people who do know how to deal with this stuff. Because the ramifications at a global level are absolutely manifest. And I've had it, with a bit of disrespect to an agency now, I've had agencies coming, you don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. We can do this, we can do that for you, and here's the bill. And I'm sorry. You don't know what you're talking about because you don't know our company anywhere near well enough as we and the people we train up to know about our products and our stuff. So some areas where they can engage and some areas where they absolutely should not engage because the ramifications at a global level are absolutely manifest. It's huge.
I loved what Katie said about the end game is still about creativity. I love Ian's quote, the best time in the last 40 years I've been doing this stuff, and I love Peter's surfing analogy. You can't make the wave, but you can ride it. Thanks very much, guys, for your time this morning and sharing your experiences and your wisdom, and thank you everyone for attending. I'll hand you back to Ian now.